Hi everyone, welcome to Casual Watch Talk Sunday Social. Well, we've got we're going to talk about a topic that nobody's even broached yet on the internet. So this will be a new exciting topic about Swatch and Blancpain, their collaboration. Breaking news. No, we definitely wanted to talk about it. I tried to get one yesterday, but we'll go more into that as we go through. But should we kick it off with a wristwatch check? Seiko, Todd, you're in the hot seat. What you wearing?
I'm in the hot seat. So as usual, I have to share two things. So here's this. You'll appreciate this, Sam. There we go. I'm going to see now. I put my camera in a new location too. So pardon me for a moment. I meant to test this. Any hope of this coming in focus?
Twist the glare off of it. Twist it a little.
Twist it a little bit. Probably do with some more AR.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
so much
that is not far off my one, is it?
Yeah, this is a 1973. There we go. 56, 45, 70, 10. Okay. It's just not going to work. You're right. Maybe it's my overhead light. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
There we go. We kind of get a little bit of it there. It's a really, so this is the grammar of design. It's really lovely. It has a really nice, when you buy these, one of the things you want is that gold medallion to be in very good shape.
Nice.
Yeah, see, the gold medallion is in very good shape. But I've also been wearing this. I got this running.
The Broad Arrow.
Just a dirty mess. It's a Broad Arrow Speedmaster. This is the one that Patrick all of a sudden loves because it's 100 meters water resistant. And it's the coaxial movement and the way it's decorated, which again you can't see with my bloody camera. Dang nabbit!
It's the glare, it's the lights.
Yeah, it's
the lights. I know. I gotta just turn off the overhead lights and go with the light ring. But you can't really see it. But it's really finely decorated. There's a lot of gold writing in it, and I can't find out a lot about these 1957. They called them the replicas, which was really poorly marketed. I mean, come on, Omega, don't call something a replica. But it's designed after their first 2815, right? The first Speedy. And I can't find out a lot about them online, which is kind of strange. I don't know why.
Yeah, I always thought that was weird. And then when they called the Speedmaster Reduced, the Speedy Reduced, that always sound weird, didn't it? The Speedmaster Reduced.
Yeah. It's so you'd think a Swatch group could do much better marketing, but here we are, right?
Yeah, it brings us to our subject for today. But before that, Pete, what are you wearing?
Okay, complete other end of the value spectrum from what Todd's just given us.
Nice,
but in keeping with what we're talking about today, the Swatch What If in Bioceramic, the new one. So I went to a TAG Heuer event a little while ago, and
bought a Swatch.
Sorry,
you went to a TAG Heuer event and bought a Swatch.
Yes, I went to a TAG Heuer event. I got there early. So I was sort of wandering around, and the event was in the watch district of Melbourne, and one of the few places that was still open was the Swatch store. So I thought I'll swing past and stick my head in and see if they've got any moon swatches, which they did, but not the one I wanted. But I actually saw this in real life and bought it. And I think that itself is the lesson of everything you need to know about the moon swatch and the Blancpain 50 Fathoms collab.
I do love that watch. Those what ifs are cool.
They are.
Yeah.
Cool. Mark, you're up next. What are you wearing?
I guess I'm somewhere in between. This, I'll show the case back because it's by.
Oh, yeah.
This is the Christopher Ward C7 Apex. It was their GPHG entry in 2018. It got nowhere, but it's the first of their Halo watches.
Nice.
And it's probably my favorite of all the Christopher Wards I've owned. This is my favorite. And it's one of the few watches, if you ever go to their showroom, they have a picture of on the wall. So.
What's the case material? Is it just PVD or is it some other kind of case material?
It's PVD stainless steel.
Okay, just curious.
But it's the watch that started their collaborations with Armin Strom and so on.
Nice.
Lovely piece. My favorite Christopher Ward.
Cool. Todd, you're up next.
Just got back from the beach. I'm still in beach mode, so I'm wearing this one. This has a little sand on it still. A Seiko Samurai, outfitted with the Republic fitted end links. I love these Clockwork Republic straps. They're perfect. So they make this watch very comfortable. I love this watch. It's really fun to wear.
No, that is cool. So that's using the fitted end links of the watch, the existing watch.
No. You from Clockwork Republic, they actually make they have these machined.
Oh, that's cool.
They have them for turtles. They have them for the Seiko sports models, Seiko 5 sports models. It's a really nice system, and the FKM rubber is so nice compared to like a silicone strap.
How does it do with dust? Like I love the silicone straps that they make, but they pick up all this particulate matter and stuff like that.
It's the FKM rubber, so no dust problem whatsoever. It is really nice. It's very comfortable, and it's even it's got a vented channel in the back. I love these straps.
Mm-hmm. You're getting your tan complimented on as well in the chat.
Oh, well, it's yes, a lot of leg in the sun and beer.
I just realized who you look like. You remind me of the Tom Cruise character from that.
I'll take it.
What was? No, not this one.
Oh, you mean Mr. Was it Steel Magnolias or something?
No. That one he did like with Robert Downey Jr. and what's it called? The Vietnam movie one.
Born on the 4th of July.
No.
Not Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder. Yes, that's the one.
Exactly. Like, we'll just move on from that very quickly.
We'll just move on. I'm simply tan. Simply tan.
Yes. So before we cause an international incident, before I get to me, I'm going to add in watch Chris. If Chris, are you ready to be added in?
All right.
Yeah. He doesn't want to now.
Here we go.
Hey,
how's it going?
Chris, thanks for joining us. We're just doing the wristwatch check. So, are you ready for a wristwatch check?
I'm actually not wearing the Swatch. Actually, I just got another watch in that I just purchased. eBay purchase.
Titanium.
It's a IWC GST perpetual calendar chronograph moon phase. It's from 2006, somewhere around there.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So you're on a bit of an IWC perpetual calendar fix, are you, at the moment? Because you had one when I saw you in Florida.
Yeah, that's my I have the Angenour perpetual calendar flyback with digital display also.
Awesome, so cool. Okay, and then I will go with, I'm wearing my new Grand Seiko, the one that I replaced the one that everyone's seen the video on, and I put it on an Uncle Seiko Tropic. It's got 90mm lug width, which I don't know why, but anyway, it's Seiko, and they can never give you exactly what you want. They always make you suffer a little bit. But yeah, so it's on a Tropic. But also this week I'm traveling for a bit this week, but Citizen lent me this Skyhawk in. Look, this is absolutely huge. It's really cool though. So I'll be doing a video upload on that. Hopefully by the end of the week. Okay.
We're seeing the review.
So yes, it's actually pretty cool. It is a pretty cool watch, but it is large. Right. Well, we're going to talk about the Swatch, the Blancpain Swatch 50 fathoms. I did, so that the thumbnail isn't clickbait, I did actually try and go and get one yesterday. So this is me at it's called the Mall of Millennia in Orlando. And just to prove that I was there I am.
You're terrified.
Proof of life photo.
Proof of life, yeah. And to show that I didn't Photoshop it because I look ridiculous in there, and I've got this corresponding spot that is still there. So this is like a proof that I was there. And then and I did get to have a look at them. So I did get to look at them. I didn't get to handle one, and I didn't get to buy one. But Chris, you definitely did get to buy one, didn't you? So maybe it'd be good if you did a really good video on this. So
yep, excellent review today.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed it.
I appreciate it.
So do you want to tell us a bit about your first impressions, and then
sure. I mean, just a brief sort of like why I went and got it and how I got it. So originally when they came out with the Moon Swatch, obviously that was like mass hysteria. I waited online for about 6 or 7 hours. I think there was about 500 people online. They only had about 50 watches, which was pretty crazy. They told us they had 50 watches after about an hour and a half or an hour after they opened, which was really funny because they opened up really late. And I was kind of discouraged about it, and I really had second thoughts about going and trying to get this watch. But, you know, and I also was kind of nervous about the quality of this watch as well. And if you saw my video, I mean, I go through, I think, pretty thoroughly the reasons why I think it's a cool watch, and there's a few reasons why I think it's, you know, not a great watch. But my first impression, so I was able to buy one. There was a line yesterday for about 200 people or something like that in the New York store, the Fifth Avenue store. They kept on coming out, giving people water. There was a person that kept on coming out and counting the line so that they knew if there was more than 200 people on the line, then they would tell people to not join the line, which I thought was a really good move, something that they didn't do, obviously, when I was waiting in line the first year when the Moon Swatch came out. So I thought that was great. I was number 17 in line, and then I had somebody else with me that was, you know, there to help me get a second, you know, second watch. So that's what happened. I got both. I got the, so I have the Atlantic here, and then I have the Antarctic. I already put the Antarctic on a black NATO strap because I think it looks, oh, there's my camera. So I got a new phone, so I have no idea. Yeah, I think it looks way better on just like a single pass-through. I don't really like the colors of these NATO straps, although they're not bad, but they're not my favorite. But overall, obviously, these are not. And I said this in the review where I was just talking about the overall reason these exist, sort of. I think they're fun watches. I think that they are not everyday watches. These are not going to last you a lifetime. The System 51, it is a decent movement, and it has, you know, 90 hours of power reserve. However, again, that's not a movement that's going to last a lifetime. Neither is, I mean, there are a lot of movements out there that are kind of similar or treated similarly. I don't think a lot of people realize that, you know, if you go to get an 8 series Miyota movement serviced or an NH35, you know, 50% of the time they're just scrapping the movement and giving you a new movement because it costs less money for them to just, not take it apart, waste hours, and just swap the movement. It's a $30 movement. So a lot of people get bent out of shape because they would just have to replace the movement in this watch. But it does have a snap-on case back, so that is different from the Moon Swatch, a very big difference. So it's not sealed, the glass. There is glass on this watch. You have a sapphire crystal case back. You have a mineral crystal with a sapphire coating in the front. You have the same thing for the bezel. You have a 120 click bezel. There is, people are telling me that the moisture indicator actually works on the Antarctic version, which is news to me. I had no idea. It's 91 meters, so if you actually go diving with it, it actually might come in handy, which is kind of cool. You don't have a screwed-in crown, and you do have a snap-in case back. So obviously, the lume is actually really good. I was very surprised. The lume bezel, hands and indices are actually liberally applied with lume, I would say, and that you have applied indices as well. So all in all, I think they're fun watches, but I think people take this way too seriously. There are tons of reviews out there. People don't even have to watch, and they're just dogging the watch for to be a plastic piece of crap. And it's I completely understand that, and I think that the Moon Swatch, when they charge $260 for that watch, definitely the price of that watch is not warranted. But this is a little bit different, in my opinion, because they are using a mold that is the 50 Fathoms mold, and it costs a little bit more money for them to come up with this design. And they're not coming up with it, obviously. They're using an existing design, the 50 Fathoms. But if you look at the current System 51 lineup, I think the most expensive is probably around $200 in a plastic case, somewhere in that range. I'm not sure if anybody knows exactly.
Yeah, and they've got
but
the metal ones that are like the 240, 250 range.
yeah, but those don't have rotating bezels. The plastic ones don't have. They have plastic crystals, plastic straps on the back, plastic straps, plastic crystal on the back. The crown is plastic. The whole thing is just a piece of plastic with. I mean, technically, this is bioceramic. I know it feels like plastic and looks like plastic, but it technically is a little bit more, durable than just plain old plastic. Number one. Number two, this does get a regular crystal. Yes, it's not, it's a mineral crystal, but it does get a mineral crystal. So all of these things are, and a sapphire crystal in the back, which I think is because they can't put a plastic crystal in the back because otherwise a NATO strap would, scratch that. That's really it. I mean, I also did in that video, I have a 1957 Aqualung that I own. So I put them side by side in that video. So if you do want to see that, I'll probably be doing a comparison of the 50 fathoms, which they don't make in a 42 millimeter. So that's something else that I mentioned. The 42 millimeter version of the 50 fathoms. There are 40 millimeter versions. 42 millimeters. I don't believe there are any. I think they've made them as limited editions, but they've never actually made a 42 millimeter version. They make 40 millimeter versions in limited editions as well. If you want something that's in 42 millimeters, so this could be foreshadowing. This could be something that they're saying, eventually we're going to come out with a 42 millimeter. I don't know.
I think some of the bathyscaphs are 42, 43. The
Yeah,
titanium, for example, but the standard
Different
50
fish.
fathoms, I don't. Yeah, different fish.
Yeah. So
yeah. So guys, if you've got, we don't know how long Chris has got another commitment, so we don't know how long he can stay on. If he could, which would be good if he could stay on for all of it, but also he might need to drop. So if you've got any questions specifically for Chris, let us know. Chili Badger says that the System 51 doesn't hack. Is that right?
really, I didn't know. I'll tell you that right now. Let's see.
Oh, there we go. We got some live.
There we go.
Well, then
happening.
I guess yeah, it's happening in real time. Well, then we'll pass it to the rest of the panel. Then. Oh, it hacked. There you go.
This one does.
Okay, so
This is
Chili might have done a slightly different, maybe an upgraded version of it. Then
I think that what we just saw was a really cool instance of the misinformation and the myths that are out there about this watch and this movement. Like, people will absolutely go to their grave saying that the System 51 can't be serviced. It can. People will go to their graves saying you can't even service the watch. The whole watch is a throwaway. That's just a lie. It's just not true. And I think what we just saw was, yeah, what Chris is just demonstrating is how many people are absolutely certain about things that are just absolutely wrong.
Yeah. In my video, I started out the video and I said, there's a lot. I was kind of disappointed. I was actually really disappointed, if I'm going to be honest. When I woke up on, I guess it was Friday, and there was a bunch of YouTubers and people I actually respect and watch their videos, and everything. And, Adrian Bark and, I'm not going to name all the names, but there was a lot of Federico. There was a picture of him. It looked like he was exploding because there was and he had I was kind of disappointed. Everybody is dogging these watches. But they haven't even seen them yet. So
I think my personal opinion is they're dogging them because they want them to fail.
Yes, or it's going to get them views
or it's going to get them views. I'm not sure which one is worse.
I knew going into making this video that I just released, I knew that if you look at the comments, I would say 75% of them are not only saying that the watch sucks, but they're also saying that I'm wrong. So if you look at them, and they're pointing out different points in the video where I am wrong. And I try and defend myself in the comments, but there's just too much. I can't. And it's overwhelming amount of people who hate this watch.
Yeah, there's definitely. I mean, I'm experiencing the outrage Olympics on my Grand Seiko video, but the one that I noticed on was, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Federico. Like, I really like his videos, but he really drilled down on the 91 meters, how ridiculous it was. And of course, the watch is 100 meters. They put 91 because that is 50 fathoms worth of measurement, isn't it? Because a fathom is like 6 foot or something. Apparently, Andrew Morgan, I'll link his. He did an excellent video on all of the little Easter eggs that are built into each individual version of the watch. It is fantastic, really. Like your the humidity tester or whatever, the moisture tester inside. I didn't even know what that was on the actual original. I didn't realize that was
the original. Yeah. So there are little Easter eggs. So like this. The white version, and I don't remember which other version, but I'm going to try and get all of them because I want to collect all of them. I actually do want to. I'm sorry, I apologize, but I shouldn't have to. I feel like people are get really bent out of shape over, but I'm going to collect all 5 of them. I really want to. If you check out the video I did, you put these side by side. They have the exact same logo. This is an Aqualung, so it says Aqualung underneath the Blancpain logo, but this one says 50 fathoms. This one has the modern logo, so this is way closer to the modern version. Because it also has the 12, 6, 9, and 3. Although mine also does, but this one does not have that. So this one's also dateless. This one is dated. You do get a ghost date position with this, though.
Yeah,
so,
somebody's just asked. Sam's asked that. Do you get a ghosted position? So yeah, you do, Sam. It sounds like
you do. Yeah. But all in all, I mean, I wasn't disappointed with the experience this time, which last time I was really disappointed with the experience and the way that we were kind of treated as just cattle and then told just go home. We only have 50 watches. It was like horrible. An hour after they had opened. This time, at least they treated us like people. You know what I mean? I was number 17. I was 99% sure I was going to get a watch. But the guy came out and he literally went to every few steps. He went to everybody and said, "We have 200 watches. I'm counting everybody online. Right now we have 100 people online. Every single one of you will get a watch. However, it may not be the exact watch you want. If everybody buys all the blue, you're not going to be able to buy the blue one." And he explained it. I just felt like this was way better because I understood that, but the person in front of me may have not understood that. And then they flip out when it comes in. Comes time to purchase it. So it was really good. You're limited to one, all this other stuff. So it was great. The experience was way better. I mean, it was horrible either way because I waited many hours online in New York City, in rain and obviously then the Labor Day parade decided to go by at some point around 9 a.m. and it was super loud on Fifth Avenue. It was ridiculous. It was like 10 feet away from this parade. And it was so loud. It was like I had a headache by that point. But anyway, that's not important information.
I guess Swatch have learned some very good lessons from the Moon Swatch.
Well, they put the staff in danger, didn't they? The first time they definitely put the staff in danger.
I don't, we blame them for the bad experience. I don't think they had any expectation of what would happen with the Moon Swatch, so they didn't know they had to cope. Now they're saying, yeah, this happened last time. It might happen again. Let's prepare.
Yeah.
Good for them.
The last time they made a lot of mistakes, which was first off, they had it in many locations, so they had it in more locations, and at least in New York City, from my perspective, they had it in too many different locations. They didn't handle the crowd, so they just allowed people to keep on queuing on the line. They had no idea how many watches they were actually getting. And then while we were on the line, they told everybody, they had released information the night before saying, hey, if you're going to queue, you're going to be able to be limited to 2 per person. And then that morning they were going around saying only 1 per person because they saw how many people were online. And then like everybody knows, and then a few weeks later, they're like, oh, these aren't going to be available online. I think those 2 mistakes soured so many people. There were so many people excited about that watch, and then so many people got soured by that, which I don't blame them.
But at the end
That's how
of
it
the day,
Yeah,
at the end of the day, they still sold every one they could make a year and a half later. So
And-
the
and-
people who got soured, there was enough people who didn't to make it a success.
And everything, and what Mark just said is the reason why I don't understand why people got soured over this, or it's certainly not looking back.
Yeah.
If you remember the first videos that dropped within a few hours of the Swatch coming out, everyone hated it. Everyone said it was going to be a complete disaster. This was a sign that Swatch had no idea what they were doing, that Omega had a gun held to their head. And then all these YouTubers were forced to backtrack and say it was a huge success and it's going to, make them a ton of money. But obviously, and then started saying now they have to spin up production to satisfy everyone. And I think I just did some quick research. They say that over the last 2 years or something, Swatch has sold 2 million I think 2 million of these watches. So did anyone think that they were going to be selling 1 million moon swatches a year?
Of
course not. I think that now they've got some sense of, that this is going to be a thing, that and they would have had to invest in a whole bunch of new facilities and a whole bunch of new infrastructure, and this is what we're seeing.
Yeah, what were they supposed to be doing? 10,000 bioceramic cases a day. They weren't set up for that.
Yeah,
they certainly weren't.
But then imagine, on the other hand, imagine if they had set up sufficient in order to meet peak capacity, peak demand. They would have had to have enough in place to make 2, 3, 4 million a year. But then 2 or 3 years later, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with all that spare capacity. So I think they've learned from Rolex, never overcommit to production facililicity. If that means the customer has to wait a little bit, they have to wait a little bit.
That's probably what ended up happening, because they originally said these would be sold online. They probably, when they saw the demand and how much they would have to scale up to actually satisfy those orders, they then were like, and they came up with a bad excuse. They should have said that, but instead they said, we want the user to have the purchaser have an in-store experience. But then there was people in Arkansas and Kansas and like all over the world who are nowhere near a Swatch store, and they're like, well, F you, I'm never going to be able to get one of these because I'm not going to be able to travel. There's a guy who follows me. His name is Junior Johnson. He loves the 50 Fathoms. He probably follows you guys.
Yep, he's on the stream, Chris.
So he loves the 50 Fathoms. I mean, he's not near a Swatch store. So he's coming to New York for one reason or another to buy something. And he said, do you think they're going to restock? And I said, I've actually already called to find out if they're going to restock, because I'm pretty sure they sold out. So I'll find out. Now I'll let him know, but I'm 99% sure they're going to restock. But the only way he can get one is by traveling to his closest Swatch store, and that might be 500 miles away for him. So
I told the story.
So go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say, you weren't on just yet, Chris, but I told the story about, I think I can give you the precise reason they only sell in store, and that's this watch. And I bought this watch because I went into a store to have a look at a moon swatch. That is why Swatch aren't assessing the success of these watches only by how many of these watches they sell, but the uptick in all the others. And from the Swatch, from the people I spoke to in the boutiques, that uptick is enormous.
It's ironic because when I was in the store, I was looking at those squares and I was like, wow, this is actually a good looking watch. I considered buying one. I was just like, I already spent too much money today.
Yeah, but can I just make a point on that though, Pete? Can I just make a counter argument on that? Because Apple do this, don't they? Apple will sell an iPhone to you like the day of launch, and you can queue outside, or you can buy it online. It shouldn't be like people like Junior. Sorry, we're using you as an example. It shouldn't be their fault that Swatch hasn't made a compelling reason for people to go into their stores for the last 10 years. I mean, it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be the people they should have it available in the stores and also online. Is my
No,
opinion. Yeah.
no,
Why?
Well, I'll tell
absolutely
you why.
not.
Well, I'll tell you why.
No,
for
you're
people
not
that
thinking
can't
like a
get to the watch
business.
stores.
You have to think like a business.
Well, no, but like for Apple, for example, I'm thinking like a business. Swatch arguably is probably, you know, similar, not similar sort of percentage wise, but they've got the other brands, haven't they? So is it the fault of people who can't get to a Swatch store? I'll ask the question, that Swatch hasn't created a compelling reason for people to go into their stores, and they're now forcing people to go into their stores.
That's
whole-
two separate questions. That's
Go on,
two
the whole
separate
question-
questions.
the whole
Well,
question.
answer the one. Is it the person who can't get to a Swatch store? Is it their fault that there isn't a Swatch store near them, that they can't
Nobody
get it?
has a.
I don't
there is-
understand
there
the
is no-
concept of fault.
Yeah, and there's no 24th Amendment that says Swatch has to make it available online.
And
Is it?
Well, yeah, no, that's true. That is true, but they should. I think they should make it available online for people that can't get to a Swatch store. And it's them saying, well, hey, it's encouraging people to go into the store and looking at other stuff. Well, okay, for the last 10 years, then why are they having to? Why haven't they created another reason for people to want to go into a Swatch store? Like
They
kind
have
of
Two
now.
force
separate
people to
questions,
go into
and they have now.
And they have now.
but they have been in business for those 10 years. I mean, people
that's
are
true, yeah.
buying their watches.
Yeah.
They're just not selling, you know, if Swatch is a business. So if Swatch was not making money, if those stores were not making money enough to keep the doors open, they would have closed them. That's it. And they would have sold them online or not sold them at all. So they were selling watches. Were they selling watches at a clip like they are now? Absolutely not. But I mean, there's no one forcing you to go to a store. Be clear, because if you really want the watch, you'll get the watch. And that's kind of what their thing is right now. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So if you want the watch, like you want a Japanese domestic only version of some sort of Seiko, and you know, I'm talking to like someone like Todd, or you know, or someone who collects Seikos, they're going to get that watch. They're going to pay it one way or another. They'll find it however they're going to get it. So if you really want the watch, you can get the watch. You're not forced to do anything. You're not forced to buy the watch either. And a lot of people are saying, oh, this is a money grab. And this is something I said in my video as well.
Yeah.
It's not a money grab. I control my money. I'm a jackass who went into New York City at like 4 a.m. and sat on a line for God knows how long to buy, you know, what essentially is 2 plastic watches. I enjoy it. That's the reason why I did it. I feel like it definitely, to me, is not a money grab. I willingly gave over my money. That's the only way I could explain it. This is something that either you're into it or you're not. So I think if you're really into it, you'll end up like Junior Johnson. He is going to eventually go to New York. He will buy the watch when he's in New York.
It will be
Well said, Chris. Well said.
It'll be curious if Swatch continues this business model and they continue to have these plastic watches, bioceramic, pardon me, watches that are available but only available in store. If they begin to do that sort of store-in-store model, you know, for a place like where I'm located, and maybe they have a small Swatch boutique in a Best Buy or something similar, where they can now have a lower overhead, a lower entry into the market, and say, like, I've got this little kiosk available in this space that you can go to with a 100-mile drive as opposed to a 1,000-mile drive, which would be curious.
Yeah, my point was more not that they're forced or it's a money grab. I don't think it's a money grab. And I queued yesterday. I would have had. They actually came round and said these are the ones we've got left. And I only wanted the blue. I wasn't like frothing at the mouth that I just had to get whatever I wanted. I only wanted the blue, so that's why we ended up leaving the queue. My point is that for them not to have a hybrid model where there is an option to buy it online, it forces people that probably can never get to a Swatch store. Say, for example, somebody that doesn't have one near, because they're not even in all the Swatch stores either, are they? They're only in a select number of Swatch stores. So it's forcing those people that do want to, that they do like the look of it and they're in, they don't mind, they don't think it's a money grab, they want to spend. It's forcing them to go to like eBay. It's forcing them to go on the secondary market. Whereas I guess my argument was like Apple, for example, if you want the iPhone on the day of launch, you can queue and get it, but it also is available online. It's more of a building a product that people want instead of having to force people to go into a
No
specific
one's forcing anybody to go anywhere.
Well, you can't buy it
have to
anywhere
buy
else,
the
though, Mark.
watch.
Well,
But you
I'm not
don't have
saying-
to buy
no,
the
Mark,
watch.
Yeah, but if you want
but he
the
wants to.
what if you want the
wants
watch,
to.
though, Mark, and you can't
Then-
get to the watch store? What's the choice?
I think Swatch's answer to that is that so right now during the launch they're only having it at certain stores, right? But then eventually it'll be available at all of their stores, and they're using this as an excuse to expand their market share and their stores. So they're expanding stores.
Mhm.
So there will be stores that are closer to the individuals who aren't near a store right now.
Did that happen
And
with the
I
Moon
would-
watch?
I would imagine the moment they're able to scale the production up on these bioceramic cases and all this stuff, these will be available online. And then this will be, whenever they come out with a new one, that will be something that you'll have to go to the store for. And then, and eventually this is just gonna not be a thing anymore.
And the other point is that you don't have to buy it on day one. You can, let's assume you have access to a store. You can wait 6 months.
Yeah,
when they're in
you
stock.
have access to a store and you do want one.
Yeah. Well, I
then
suppose using the Apple equivalent, I suppose the cash grab there is I wouldn't mind buying an Apple Watch, but I can't unless I also buy an Apple phone. So that's how Apple has decided to grab your cash. So
well, they just work with Android. I think
sorry.
I think the Apple Watch works with Android. I think
no,
or maybe that's the AirTag.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, the AirTag does. Apple Watch is a brick. Unless you got an iPhone, Apple Watch is a brick. But every company has these things. I must admit, I don't feel the moral outrage that so many people seem to feel about I can't buy a $400 watch. And particularly because that is not a standard that people are holding other brands to. Imagine if this outrage was directed at Rolex and their inability to supply. I mean, they've had.
I think it is.
Decades.
I think it is. I think
nothing,
Rolex.
nothing like the venom that people are injecting into this.
Yeah.
No one says it's my fault I can't buy a Rolex. No one says it's my right that I have a store so I can buy a watch.
Right.
I think
it's a double standard that you're holding Swatch and Rolex.
Yeah, that's not what I was saying. That's not what I was saying.
That's exactly what you said. It may not be what you meant, but it's exactly what you said.
No, that's not what I said. It isn't. I know. And what I'm saying is, so this is a consumer product, isn't it? We're not talking a Rolex.
They are all consumer products. They are all consumer products.
You're a consumer. It's a product. By definition, it's a consumer product.
I mean, more of something that you could easily spend your disposable income on. More than I would say. I would say that the amount of people that could buy a $400 watch is more than the amount of people that could buy a $7,000 Rolex.
That is true. Therefore, there is far less excuse for Rolex not having enough.
For example, but these watches have done well. So the Moon Swatch did well because it was an accessible version of a more expensive watch, wasn't it? It was people that liked the aesthetic of the Speedmaster, but that couldn't afford it. So should the two, when Swatch could, in theory, they could have it where you bought it online because you can buy Omega. Can you buy Omegas online? There's some of the big brands.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Some.
Okay, Yeah, so you could have you can buy it online, but it might take like 3 weeks or something to get it, and also have it where people could go into store. Because if you do want one, and you've got the $400 or whatever that you've saved, and you are forced to go to eBay, aren't you, for the scalpers to get one? You're kind of forced to go.
Well,
or you could wait 6 months.
Your Apple,
you could wait 6 months.
Analogy is wrong. Actually, I'll just jump in because I would argue that the Apple is an iPhone or what have you, right, is just an appliance. It's something that, I mean, it's a desirable one, but it's something that basically now is an essential piece of communications, an essential piece of life, for nearly everybody at this point, unless you just came out of a cave. But the Swatch, any Swatch product or what have you, is just a nice to have. It's not. I don't think the analogy is completely correct, is what I'm saying, between
Well,
Apple
the other thing about Apple is that Apple have competition. You may not like the competition, but you don't have to buy an iPhone.
no,
you
you can
could
get
buy an Android.
Right.
I mean,
I think
the Swatch has plenty of competition
build
too.
hype. You could build hype of people going into stores, but also have the Apple analogy was if I could be clear about it, was you can still build a hype about people going to a store, but also make it accessible to people online, because that's what you can do with the iPhone.
Another perspective for you, Sam, is that Swatch really doesn't care about you, Sam. And really what's happening is that Blancpain is a brand that doesn't really have street. It's not doing great. It's not a street brand that people know about. And now suddenly everybody's talking about Blancpain. And you're going to have that same effect that happened with Omega watches. They don't care if you can't get it, Sam. It's really a huge marketing ploy to sell a bunch of watches, make a bunch of money, but lift up Blancpain.
Well, that's a good question. So next question then, so we'll kind of flip it up a bit, is do we think, though, that will be the case with Blancpain? Because the equivalent Blancpain is like $15,000. At least the Speedmaster was within $5,000 or $6,000, wasn't it? So
good point.
I mean, would you get, because there's a lot of other dive. It's more expensive than the Submariner, isn't it? The 50 fathoms.
But you've got this hype. You've got this hype where people are waiting in line just for the plastic one. That steel one must be amazing. I'm gonna.
So you think people will spend 15,000 on the? Do you think? I wonder whether it will increase the 50 fathoms.
I'll guarantee it does, but not for the reason that people are thinking. I think the number of people that look at a plastic watch and then say, "Oh, I want to buy the $15,000 steel version," would be minuscule.
Yeah, no, it's not like that. Yeah.
Who here wants to buy a Rolex because you saw a concrete barrier at Formula One green with a gold Rolex written on it? No one does. No one wanted to buy a Rolex because they saw a green concrete barrier at a race. But that green concrete barrier at the race, and that the thing behind the tennis player and the thing behind the golf player, every one of them is sneaking into the back of your mind. Rolex. And it's just building this awareness of what's going on. That's what this is about. This is just about making the brand relevant. This is just about getting it in people's minds. It's no different. In fact, I'd say it's infinitely better for us as watch people than painting rocks green and using marketing money that way. How would you prefer your watch company to market? By giving you other watches or painting infrastructure?
It's a good point. I mean, I think that the next step, I think Blancpain is going to come out with a 42 millimeter version, because that's kind of what they're missing, because they're going to point a lot of people there, and they're going to go there and then be like, well, this is like twice the size of the one that I saw at Swatch going on. You know what I mean? So I think the next step for them is to come out with the smaller version, because even for someone like me, I like big watches. I buy big watches. This is a 43 millimeter watch, right? I like big watches, but even for me, the 45 millimeter 50 fathoms is just, it's too much. It's just too much. It's like a dinner plate. But it's a great watch. It just needs to be smaller. And I think that's probably what we're going to hear about next. We'll see.
I did a podcast which I haven't put out yet, but talking to a friend of mine who's owned two Blancpain 50 fathoms. And the thing that makes him more angry than anything else is he's sold on both of those 50 fathoms because he wants a 42 millimeter. And now they finally make one, and it's the bioceramic.
Yeah, bioceramic.
You got to go vintage. That's why you got to get the vintage 41 millimeters. So that's the.
John doesn't do vintage.
No, all right. No.
Yeah, it's a junior saying it's also to bring awareness to saving the oceans.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay. I don't buy that for a second.
It was Andrew Morgan's one's really interesting, I think, with the 10. But I mean, where do they? So the thing. So I don't think the moon swatch is still not available online, is it? And is the moon swatch available in all of the Swatch stores yet? I don't think that's the case, is it? I don't
No,
think it's
and
available
no.
in all the Swatch stores. Yeah,
And
exactly. So
they're still selling out pretty much as soon as they arrive. They're at max capacity, and if they were online, they would just be permanently out of stock.
do you know what? I'm wondering whether I'm going to go with, because the local Swatch store near me. I mean, this is kind of maybe proving and disproving my argument that they should be sold online. But the local Swatch store at me that only opened like 6 weeks ago, and probably for this reason, they've had the moons. They've certainly had them in the window, and they appear to have them on the wall. So I don't know if they're actually in stock. So I'll go in and ask when I go, because I'll go back and try and get the blue one, but I'm not going to like waste my life trying to do it.
Yeah. My guess would be, I think I agree with Chris, except I'll cast it down a couple of years. I think they've now decided what their capacity is going to be. Their capacity is going to be about 1 million watches a year. They know they're not going to sell 1 million moon swatches a year. So what they do is, as that demand dies down, they're going to inject another watch in. No watch is ever going to get the complete hype that the first one did, but that's okay. They just want to go back up to capacity. So they're going to make about 1 million a year. That demand started to drop off, so they injected the 50 fathoms. That's going to drop down in probably a year or two. And then they're going to inject, I'm going to say, a Seamaster. If not a Seamaster, a Breguet Type 20. And then when that drops down, it's going to be a Breguet Type 20. I'm a bit like the cat who ate the cream on this one. I just was searching onto one side in April 2022, within about 2 months, and I said the 7 seas, not the 5 oceans. I did a video predicting this exact watch. This is the way it's going to play. There will be a Breguet version. It will be the Type 20, and it will be something like the eras of aviation.
Yeah.
I hope you're right, because I think that would be awesome. The Type 20 would be really cool, and they could probably do that in imports. They will do that in imports, and I think it'll look great.
Yeah. And
what so Chris, just a question for you, because I queued, and one of the things that was interesting was I thought that it was going to be a lot of obvious flippers in the queue. But and it might have been, but what I was amazed at is how many people in the queue were wearing a moon swatch, or I saw actual Speedmasters. I saw a Mark II Speedmaster that you never. I think the one you've got, Mark, with the orange.
Very rare sight. I've only ever seen one of the Mark II.
One of the guys I saw, like one Submariner. I mean, there was a guy in an Invicta who was obviously like there to flip, I'm assuming, but unless he was deciding he wanted, one of the huge.
But he wanted to step up.
Yeah. So what did you do any watch spotting, Chris? Did you see anything?
Yeah, there was a lot of flippers. There were 3 people that were standing behind me that were there to purchase watches for somebody else who was going to flip them. And then there were a bunch of people ahead of me that were flippers. I mean, I would say it was probably 50-50. There's probably half the people on the line were there to flip, half the people were there to actually purchase it. I kind of understand that for New York City, though, because it's like thick with people who are looking to make money somehow.
Well, Supreme's there as well in Soho, isn't it? It's got the hype. There's a lot of hype beast stuff there, isn't it? Like the Supreme store was known for that.
Yeah, literally, people were like walking by and they would ask. There was a Mango store. You ever hear of Mango, the like women's store? And then there was the Swatch store, and the line was going in front of the Mango store, and then people were stopping in front of, asking like, "Why are you waiting in line for Mango?" And I was like, "I'm not waiting in line for Mango. I'm actually waiting in line for Swatch." And they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" And I said, "Oh, they're releasing a watch. It's a collaboration with Blancpain, and oh, should we get on the line?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like, I don't know what you're doing. You should do what you have to do. I don't know." People are very curious and just walking by and seeing if it's going to be something that's worthwhile. And it's New York, so New York's a little bit different, I think.
When I did my video on the Sorry, Pete. I was going to say very quickly, when I did my video on the Swatch, I researched that there was quite a number of Reddit articles, and there was one guy that followed this street gang in Madrid who were queuing for the moon swatch every day, and they were intimidating people out of the line, and they were actually pulling knives on people and all sorts of stuff. So I wonder how they're gonna. I mean, there was other anecdotal stories about that as well, wasn't it? This is why this is part of the reason why I think that they should also be online. But whatever. I wonder whether this will be the same. I mean, I'm like you say, it sounds like Swatch were handling it a lot better this time.
I mean, if you look at the first day for the moon swatch, yes, there were a lot of people in line. But if you listen to people like Jody, a lot of what people were paying for was not necessarily the watch. It was that receipt that said they were brave enough, they were the hero for being in line and getting it on day one. The value wasn't the watch, it was the receipt. And it could well be the same for this. But, if you wait 3 or 4 months, the flipping activity will die down. The watches may be available in the stores, or they'll be available on eBay, and the premium won't be as much. It's just if you have to have it on day one and you can't get to a store, then you're going to pay. And like most swatches, it really isn't worth paying over retail.
Yeah, I'm looking at eBay right now, seeing what the flipping costs are. It depends. The blue one is getting a premium, so they're asking over $1,000 for those. Other ones are going, for like buy now type. Like one I see 1,400. The other ones are up to bids, or they're asking around $850 for the other ones. Generally, like a buy it now, $850. That seems to be roughly what I'm seeing here.
On the Facebook posts in Australia, the groups here, the average markup is about $200, and a few of us were saying, I'd pay that rather than wait in line.
Yeah, I'd pay somebody to buy that for me for $200.
Yeah, I mean, if I could go on Fiverr, if I could go on Fiverr and say I'll pay you $200 to stand in the queue and then send it to me. What's interesting is looking at the sold prices on those. There's a lot of really high asking prices, but they're selling a lot cheaper.
There were a lot of people who had these up before the launch. They had just photos, the stock photos that they copied from the website and put them up for sale. And there were people actually selling them. So I guess they have to make sure they get in line and get one. But I mean, just like the moon swatch, the moon swatch was selling for ridiculous amounts of money prior to them even going live. And then they went live and prices really went crazy because people got, so upset. And then if you look at the moon swatch now, the prices have significantly come down because there are so many on eBay. There's incredible amounts. And then if you're buying one for $260 and you put it on eBay for $360, you're walking away with $260.
Even less, because you got the costs associated with selling. You've got roughly 13% hit on that between PayPal and eBay's costs.
Yeah, you're not making money.
Yeah, you're not really
the point. You're not making, and it's not worth the risk also, because eBay is really, there's a lot of pitfalls on eBay. So people could scam you or whatever, So what we were talking about before, and then I have to jump because we're about to eat dinner. But the thing that Sam, you were saying before about someone who's living, and they're not, far away from a swatch store and they're not able to get to, and you're sort of being forced to go to a swatch store to purchase it. With that being said, if you a year ago wanted to buy a moon swatch, you weren't able to buy one because you didn't live near a store, go on eBay now and you're able to buy one for basically the price that they sell for. So all it is just, wait a little while and now you'll be able to buy it. This is not a $1,400 watch. I would say it's not a $1,400 watch. And if you pay $1,400 for this watch, you will be very disappointed in the watch that you purchased. This is definitely a solid $300 watch, probably in that range, because of the name, really. Because if it didn't have that name, if another brand made this with this movement, and it would probably be less money. But with the names on it, with the Blancpain name on it, it's definitely a $300 watch. $400 is a little on the more expensive side for this watch. But either way, you either appreciate it and want it, or you don't, like we've said. And the other thing is that eventually these will be affordable. Eventually you'll be able to buy these used on eBay for sure at that $400 and maybe even below if they keep on making them, and they say they will.
Yep.
So, that's it.
And you know, if you wanted a $400 Blancpain clone, last couple of years they've been all over the micro brand scene, all over AliExpress. If you want if you want to pay less than $1,400, buy a Christopher Ward C65 Aquitaine. It'll last you a damn sight more than 10 years. Possibly keep its value. It'll look exactly the same as the Blancpain. It just won't say Blancpain by Swatch on it. You know, the 50 Fathoms it went through a 2-year period of being blatantly copied by virtually every micro brand in the world.
Yeah, definitely did.
All right.
Yeah, it's
I'm
just,
gonna head out. Thank you guys.
cheers, Chris. Thanks for giving us time.
Good to see you.
Oh yeah, so we've lost Todd V as well. I think his camera was.
Yeah.
So I mean, what we've already talked about where we think they'll go next. I'm going to try and go back and I'll try and go back and get the blue one for sure.
But you know, if you were willing to wait a month, you'll find it a lot easier.
Yeah, it's like I think the thing I covered this in my Moon Swatch video is that Swatch, or for the last, I don't know, years, they've built out a complex online selling platform where they sell all of their watches normally. They've built that out. They've already set the expectation prior Moon Swatch that the watches are available online. They've already had that. Like, whereas Rolex or other ones, they don't have that. They've never had an e-commerce site.
Yeah, but on the other hand, Swatch has always had their city watches that they don't make online. You have to go into the stores in the cities to buy. They've had their art watches that you've not been able to buy online. You had to go into the stores to buy the art watches. The hype is only after the fact. You only know that they're going to be hyped after the fact.
Yeah, I bought a Swatch hype watch. I bought one prior to Moon Swatch. I bought arguably one of the most hyped ones at the time, which was the Damien Hirst, the artist, 90th anniversary Mickey mirror swatch. And that was a feeding frenzy, but that was all online.
And arguably, Omega and Swatch only made 2 mistakes with the Moon Swatch launch. Not forecasting demand, but toss up on that one. I don't think anyone saw that one coming. And they should never have said it'll be available online. And as soon as they said it, 20 minutes later, they should have put out a strong statement that said, we will never sell this online.
Where did that come from? Because I've only ever heard people quote that someone said it, but I've never seen it.
It wasn't that strong.
Was it like
an
Instagram post or something?
No, it was Hayek. Hayek said it.
Oh, okay.
And it was we will sell it online when we can. They never said they would sell it online on the time. It was a much less stronger statement than people make it out to be. That's what I
thought. It was kind of an off the cuff. Yeah, we'll sell it online one day. And yeah, I think they will, probably in about 2027, 2028.
If you try and follow we will sell this online, you won't get very far. You won't find a definitive statement from Swatch.
Yeah, because even in the Watch Pro one here, they're saying for the time being, purchases online. But I remember they did say, because they panicked, didn't they, that first day, and said they would be available online. I think maybe it was a tweet or something, but it was to try and calm the feeding frenzy at the shopping malls.
It could be. And like I said, I think it was people have taken what I think might have been a bit of a throwaway line and turned it into gospel, and then they're outraged that the throwaway line wasn't followed up. But I can't find a single press release, a single formal statement, a single piece of media which said, and coming soon, online sales.
Yeah, I couldn't find that either, Pete. And I spent quite some time when they were launched, simply because people were, the false outrage.
Yeah, I did.
Why can't I buy it online? I couldn't find it. I couldn't find that statement.
Yeah, I spent about 2 days searching for it. I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Mandela effect, but I'm sure I distinctly remember them saying it, because I mean, I might have even talked about it in a podcast. I'll see if I can find it. Maybe it was a tweet that was deleted. Maybe it's a internet, archive job.
Yeah.
But I definitely remember them saying it.
And I suppose that there's an interesting thing there about, is a tweet a formal statement? Like as far as I'm concerned, Instagram posts, tweets, off the cuff, doorstop comments are not media releases. That is some person spouting. That's not a formal release.
The one question we haven't asked about this, and I think we know Sam's answer. Does anybody else on the panel like this enough to spend $400 at some point and buy any?
I'm buying two of them. I'm buying the Antarctic and the Arctic.
I don't know if I am yet. I don't know.
Yeah, I was indifferent about the Moon Swatch. I have to say that's probably why I wasn't. I mean, I made that one video because I was more concerned. My video is basically revolved around they put their staff in danger that first day, and then they had these. I mean, I covered it in with the references and the thing that some of these organized gangs, not just in Madrid, but over different places, they kind of created this, and they were like nonchalant about it as well. They were nonchalant about putting the staff in danger that first day, I think. And this actually, that we made a comment before about the first day hype, but this Reddit article was tracking that Madrid gang for months. I mean, I made the video in May, and I can't remember there was like several months afterwards that they were still doing this, still queuing every single day.
It'll be interesting to see what the Scottish Watches guys say was going on in Edinburgh, because there is a Swatch boutique in Edinburgh.
At this one, we turned up, so the store opened at 11. And I wasn't like busting it to try and get there. The store opened at 11, and I was actually surprised that the queue wasn't bigger. It kind of snaked 5 times, but it was only a short. There was probably 150 people in the queue. It wasn't like 1,000 people queuing for it. So it seemed like, although I didn't see the Moon Swatch hype, it seemed like it wasn't as there. I mean, but it was a new store, and it is a posh, affluent area.
I saw pictures from one of the malls in Dubai where, there was a queue, but it was nothing like the Moon Swatch.
Yeah, same here. There was a queue, but it was all fairly orderly. I think there's a combination of it's Blancpain, not Omega, so there's not as much recognition. I think there's people were put off by what happened last time, so they're not going to queue this time. There was probably a degree of what's the point? They're not going to have enough watches, but there probably was this time. And like I said, I strongly suspect Swatch knew quite well that the hype was going to be less for this one. But
they'd also learned the lesson about what happened last time,
and they were better prepared for it.
Yeah. I want to make a bold prediction, however, of the next version of this. It's not what has been said. What do you think about $100 collaboration with Hamilton to make a khaki field watch?
No,
quartz.
They're too close to each other. I think
they are. They are. That's true. It has to be really inexpensive for this to be anything.
But why would they?
But they already make one. But they also already make one. If you go look at, I think one of the problems, there's already a whole bunch of swatches that kind of look like Hamilton's.
There are. You're right. There's some of the irony. The metal Swatch irony ones do look like.
Yeah.
I'll find it now.
I'm trying to go from like a chronograph to a dive watch. I'm like, I can't see them going to a Seamaster kind of collaboration, because that's another dive watch. What would they do differently? Is kind of what I was thinking. I think that like La Chute Original is too difficult. Maybe I don't know.
And I think they are going to run out of brands to mine. But I think this really only works because of the tension created between a couple $100 and many thousands of dollars.
And Hamilton did that. They were famous for making those plastic watches for the Vietnam War. They soldiers had plastic Hamiltons.
They weren't plastic that I know.
Oh, right.
They're all metal.
Maybe they can get James Bond to wear a plastic Seamaster. Then you got something.
I'm not a fan of the 50 fathoms anyway. I like that they did the Atlantic, the blue one that looks like the summer blue Ploprof. Wouldn't buy one, but that's probably the best looking of them. But then again, I am a fan of the Seamaster, and if they did a Seamaster by Swatch, I wouldn't buy that either. I've got Seamasters already.
Yeah, you're not the right person, probably.
Yeah.
You're not the audience.
I certainly wouldn't stand in line and get cold or
Yeah.
whatever and rained on for a watch. I'll just wait for the boutique to give me a call.
This is an interesting comment. There was doubt that they could pull off the Seamaster. This proves they can. So so they can pull off a bezeled watch.
Good point.
They can certainly do it, and I think another sort of suspicion that as we move through this, the prices are going to go up. They're going to expect to sell less and less. They're not going to expect to keep selling 1 million of these a year. I think they'd like to get to the point where they have like 4 or 5 lines on their bioceramic. I call it the League of Legends. Each one selling about 250,000 a year. And at that point, when they settle down into their mature state, they'll probably be available online.
Yeah, but that could be a couple of years out.
Oh, I'm saying 2027, 2028, things might come online.
They've got to, in order for them to have increased production, they had to have seen a business case for it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And because you've got to make that investment, get the machinery, train the people, your raw material supply, everything, and then you've got to work out how many years it is before you pay that back.
That's right. And this is the exact reason why they didn't scale up in order to supply that initial demand.
Yep.
I
think they were caught out. They could have spent an extra 2 or 3 months making watches before launch, but then the chance of, the risk of a leak goes up too. So it's a balance you have to play. And
also with the degree of hype, what difference would it have made? That it would have all been sold out still within a week or two.
Yeah. You
so within a week, you're still in exactly the same position.
And in fact, Sam was using the Apple analogy. Something like a Nikon or a Canon analogy might have been more appropriate. When a new hype camera or lens comes out, if you're Nikon Professional or Canon Professional Services, you might get one. The rest of you are waiting a year in a line. So maybe the camera companies are it's a Veblen good. Yes, it's a tool, but I think the camera companies are probably a better analogy.
Actually, Nikon's a great analogy.
It's a great analogy, I know.
Nikon's a great analogy because it also shows once again, the dangers of overproduction.
Which is why they don't anymore.
Yeah. And so I think all the brands have learnt it's better not to make a sale today than to overinvest in infrastructure and then be forced to next year when you've got to make that interest payment. You still have to make 1 million watches, but there aren't 1 million customers, but you have to make them. And then they get punched out to Joma Shop, and then people are doing outraged videos about why you should never pay retail for a watch because you can get them all on the secondary market. And then everyone's going to do videos about why people should be more like Rolex and they should control their distribution and inventory better. And then they do that, and then we have outraged videos about why aren't you making things available for me? And
the camera fan, the watch fanboys, the people who are giving Sam all the grief about his Grand Seiko, you have never spent time on a camera forum.
Camera forums are poisonous.
Watch World is so nice.
Yeah.
So we're nearly at Pete. How are you for time? Because we've gone a bit over.
I do have to get going very soon.
Yeah. So before that, I need to correct an injustice. Apparently, Hamilton, the other. This is just one off, but it said apparently they were the first one to do the metal watches, whereas the previous ones were fiberglass and plastic that were issued. So I did Hamilton a disservice. Then it was the non prior to Hamilton's that were plastic.
Oh, okay.
Just correcting it.
Yeah.
Kent, I like Kent Daigle's last comment.
Yeah. Are they?
But then you have to say, Kent, not on forums.
Oh yeah. My experience with camera forums was the reason why I have never gone on. I've only just recently started playing with watch forums. It's fascinating to me to have all these people talk about the nostalgic good old days of watch forums, but coming from the camera world,
Yeah.
they were a toxic pit of just poison that
And
you
they still
did not
are.
want to go into, and they still are. It's
Mhm.
camera forums are horrible places.
Yeah, I mean, it's M4 thirds against the world still.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Kent's saying AV. I'm in the AV game, or audio guys are out of their minds. Also, computer game, like people who are fans of, you like gamers, because I play a lot of Xbox, and
I tell you what, Baldur's Gate is
Andrew's right.
responsible for me not putting out a video for 2 weeks.
Well, so you're either playing it and have got maybe into the second act, or there's no point in making a video when all the Baldur's Gate videos are coming out.
Oh yeah, well I'm about halfway through the third act.
Oh, okay, that's good progress.
But
Oh my goodness!
Awesome. Well, there we go. Well, that was a lively and heated discussion time. We all just shows the passion for the hobby.
Mark and Pete versus Sam. Normally it's Sam and Mark versus
Maybe
Pete.
we should do this.
Okay.
I think people, you know, I wasn't even.
You were getting the votes though, Sam. You were getting the votes. You were wrong, but you were getting the votes.
That's right.
Yeah, this is
if you're gonna be wrong, at least be wrong with company.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, exactly. What I make a great politician. Okay, cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for the panel. Thank you for everyone. Sorry we didn't get to like loads of the comments. We were flying through here, but we appreciate everyone who was flying through these comments. Very, very much appreciated. Aaron, there you go. Sam for president. There you go. Unfortunately, I'm not born in the US, but let's change it. Yes. Awesome. Well, there we go. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for watching, and
thank you all.
There won't be a show on Tuesday. I'm traveling, but we'll see you next Sunday. All right. Thanks everyone.
All right. Have a good one.